Eugene, thanks very much for speaking with us this morning. As you know, this month we're particularly focusing on multicultural ministry, and it's great just an opportunity to talk to you about that because Grace Point has been leading the way in many respects in Sydney, and that's just great to benefit from your experience. Can you tell us, though, Grace Point wasn't always Grace Point. How did you begin? What was your particular ethnic focus at the time?
I think the church started in 1998, and the ethnic focus really was on Cantonese speakers from Hong Kong. And then in 1999, they started to branch out to do a bit of second generation work. And then after that, they started to do Mandarin speaking work. And so, if you're talking about ethnic focus, the ethnic focus was really on Asian communities.
Mm. Is that why you felt the need to change the name of your church?
Yes and no. The church was originally Burwood Chinese Presbyterian Church. I think I was mainly involved in the second generation work. And so I think at Grace Point, what we do is we see ethnicity as, the ethnic group is Asian. But even within Asian communities, I think there are different cultural groups. The second generation is one of them. Cantonese speaking is one of them. Mandarin speaking is one of them. And I think as we reach different cultural groups within ethnic communities, I think we worked out we needed a way to give them a sense of their own identity.
Mm.
And so the second generation work started as Burwood at 5. But as the church grew, as we started planting, we needed a more generic name, but we needed our own identity. The leadership and the congregation needed its own identity, and that's how we came to be known as Grace Point.
Is identity an important issue for, I guess, particularly second-generation Asian migrants?
I think it's important for any group. Whether it's second-generation Asian migrants or whether it's second-generation Australian-born Chinese. And I think that's one of the things we realize in our church. Every cultural group, Mandarin-speaking, Cantonese-speaking, didn't just need their own identity, they also needed their own leadership and their own freedom to exercise decision-making in the life of the church. And so, when people look at our church, they see a homogenous church because it's all a bunch of Asians.
It's a very Caucasian reaction, yeah.
But among the Asian community, there are different cultural groups, and I think I've said to Al, it's like looking at a bunch of Europeans and actually saying they're all the same. Well, they're not. There's French, there's Swiss, there's Germans, and they are culturally different, even though they might share the same ethnic background.
So how have you had to slice things up? What's your current sort of focus? I guess you're talking about individual identities. What identities are you currently addressing?
At Grace Point, we have Mandarin-speaking work, and most of the Mandarin speakers come from mainland China. They're migrants. We have Cantonese-speaking work, and most of our Cantonese work really is reaching migrants from Hong Kong. And then we have our English-speaking work. And our English-speaking work, I think, by far is the most diverse. They look homogenous, but they are the most diverse. Because we have second, third generation Australian-born Chinese, but we also have migrant English-speaking Chinese. And then you've got the spectrum because second generation, some of them have backgrounds. They come from Vietnam, they come from Taiwan, from South America, Spain as well. And so it's quite fascinating for us. And then you've got those who obviously have come as migrants but have been here for 50 years. And so they straddle two cultures. And so our English-speaking work is probably quite broad in that sense.
You're starting to make it sound like it'd be just easy to run a church for everybody who is European. Just feel like
I sometimes think like that. I realize that they're different. I wouldn't call an Englishman a Scotsman or vice versa.
No, not if you wanted to keep your nose in the same place. Yeah.
With the referendum that happened recently.
Well, have you obviously you can end up spreading yourself across what's starting to sound like multiple ethnicities and in fact cultures within that and subcultures. Have you found it helpful to partner with other organisations and to sort of extend your reach, or how have you handled that? Have you drawn solid limits for yourself
Yeah.
to this far and
Well,
no further?
I think for us, we haven't partnered with outside organisations to do our ministry, to reach different people groups. What we have done is we've seen our relationship with our non-English speaking congregations as partnership. And so I think our English speaking work we haven't been able to do without the work of the non-English speaking work. And so I think when we started, most of our work was with children of the first generation. But as the second generation work has grown, it's attracted older people, English-speaking migrants who've been here a lot longer. And so I think our English congregations now range, the youngest is, obviously, you've got babies, the oldest is 80. But when we started Bow at 5, and then we became Grace Point, we were mainly a university student congregation, a high school congregation, because they were children from the Chinese-speaking congregations. But the relationship between our congregations has grown because previously, I think, our second generation work was under the Chinese-speaking work. But as the years have developed, we are now what we call parallel ministries. And I think that's how we express our partnership. And I think one of the questions I've been asked in the past is, how do you move forward given the diversity? And I think the way we move forward is to actually recognize that I think every cultural group needs its own indigenous leadership, and the freedom to actually act.
Yeah. But it sounds like in one respect, somebody would say, look, you're multiplying the number of congregations, but once you're moving to the level of leadership with the freedom to act, that you might be sharing a building, but you're sounding like you're planting multiple churches, because you've got that.
Effectively. And so the way we've described it, or the way we've spoken of this in the past, is one church, many congregations, many ways of, many expressions of that one church, with the freedom to act and do what's needed to grow the church. And so our congregations are not all on the same site. We currently have 2 that are off-site and 5 that are on the current site.
Now, you've had to adapt to different ethnicities, as they've sort of risen in popularity, or I guess popularity is the wrong word, but you know what I mean in terms of density in your area. I understand that you had to expand into the Vietnamese community because that was becoming a significant element within your area.
I think it was. I'm sure it wasn't the Vietnamese. It was the Korean community.
Right. Sorry.
And so at one stage we thought we could actually do Korean work, and I think the mistake I feel I made was when we looked at second generation Koreans, we just thought, oh, they're second generation Koreans, they're English speaking, they're pretty similar to Australian born Chinese, and so we thought it wouldn't be hard to do that work, and so we had. We had second generation Australian born Koreans who were churching with us, and they most of them didn't stay. And I think what we discovered was even after 6 months, being part of our small groups, being part of our church community, they still didn't feel as comfortable. And it was really, really simple things, when we, after church, you want to go for lunch down the road because we're situated in Lidcombe. And most of us will go, okay, let's go down and we'll just have Vietnamese noodles, or, we're going to have a meal. But Australian-born Koreans, even though they're born here, even their taste in food is different. And so they'd be thinking, no, we were thinking of noodles in Strathfield. It's Koreatown in Strathfield. And so, they're very simple things, very small things, but they are cultural differences. And so we haven't done well with our, second generation Korean work. And I think we realized that after that 6 months.
How do you think that you're going to have to adapt? I mean, if I can get you to project forward, Sydney is becoming an incredibly multi-ethnic landscape. Do you see other ethnicities you're going to have to pay particular attention to, or do you think that you've got enough to concentrate on in terms of the Chinese community? How do you see yourself adapting?
I think for us, Mark, I think what we've done is we've looked to find opportunities, but we've only started to do those sorts of ministries when we found the right people. So that what we've done at Grace Point, we've always thought, okay, there are many opportunities in our suburb, but we're always looking for the right people. So even 15 years ago, I think one of the things we actually said was we wouldn't start ministries to reach different groups unless we had the right people to reach them. And so 15 years ago, I was going through some of our documents from 15 years ago. We said, look, one of the things we want to do was actually do second-generation Korean work. That hasn't eventuated. Other things have eventuated. How would we do it? I think we'd try to identify and find a second-generation Korean church planter or pastor able to do that. And we have explored those options in the last 2 years. We've met with a few people, but that hasn't eventuated. But we are looking for those opportunities.
That's really interesting. So you would say that the key is not simply just recognizing the ethnicity in the area or even understanding the ethnicity in the area, but being able to appoint the appropriate leadership for that ethnicity in the area.
Right. And so for us, finding the right people is when we would actually start those ministries.
Eugene, it's been brilliant chatting to you this morning. Thanks very much for fitting us in.
Pleasure, Mark.
And look, we'll pass this on, obviously, to the rest of our community. What we're going to do, though, is we'll also put up a little email address on the screen now, and that'll actually give people an opportunity, if they have a question, something specific they might want to follow up, and we can flick that on to you.
Sure, not a worry. Thanks for that, Mark.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.